In the heart of ancient Greece, where city-states vied for power and glory, few names echo with the resonance of Epaminondas. His tale is not merely one of battle and conquest, but of vision. A story of how a single man, driven by the hope of freedom and guided by intellect, redefined the art of war and changed the fate of his homeland Thebes. To understand Epaminondas, we must journey back to the early 4th century BCE. At this time, Greece was a mosaic of fiercely independent city-states. Athens, renowned for its democracy and culture; Sparta, feared for its martial discipline; and Thebes, a city often overshadowed by its more prominent neighbors. Yet beneath the surface, Thebes simmered with ambition, awaiting its moment to rise. Epaminondas was born into this world, the son of a modest family. He was not, at first glance, the kind of man one would expect to shape history. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he was not known for ostentatious wealth or extravagant displays. Instead, he was a philosopher-soldier, his mind as sharp as any blade. He studied under the Pythagoreans, absorbing lessons not only in mathematics and philosophy, but also in the virtues of self-restraint, justice, and the pursuit of the common good. As Epaminondas grew, so too did the tensions between Thebes and its rivals. For decades, the Spartans had held the upper hand in Greece, their reputation forged at battles like Thermopylae and Mantinea. They ruled not just through force, but through a web of alliances and the imposition of oligarchies. Thebes, often forced into submission, chafed under this rule. Yet within the city, a spirit of resistance smoldered, nurtured by men like Epaminondas. The turning point came in 379 BCE, when a group of Theban exiles, led by Pelopidas, a close friend and ally of Epaminondas, returned to Thebes and overthrew the pro-Spartan government. With the city liberated, Thebes began to rebuild its institutions and its pride. Epaminondas, though not among the conspirators, quickly emerged as a figure of wisdom and integrity, helping to steer the city through the turbulent aftermath. Thebes' resurgence alarmed Sparta, and soon the two cities were locked in conflict. It was here that Epaminondas' genius would shine brightest. For centuries, Greek warfare had been dominated by the Phalanx, a dense formation of spearmen, shoulder to shoulder, advancing as a single, impenetrable wall. Victory often went to the side with the most discipline and the strongest soldiers. Sparta, with its elite hoplites, reigned supreme in this deadly calculus. But Epaminondas saw what others did not. He realized that the Phalanx, for all its strength, was also inflexible, its power unevenly distributed, its movements predictable. He began to dream of a new way to fight, one that turned the enemy's strength into a weakness. His opportunity came at the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BCE. The Spartans, confident as ever, marched into Boeotia with a force of some 10,000 hoplites, including their elite Spartiates. The Thebans, outnumbered and facing the most feared warriors in Greece, seemed doomed. But Epaminondas was undaunted. He assembled his army on the plain of Leuctra, and there revealed his innovation, the Oblique order. Rather than arraying his troops in a uniform line, Epaminondas massed his best men, the famed Sacred Band, on his left wing, stacking them 50 ranks deep, far deeper than the standard 8 or 12. The center and right were held back, thinner and more flexible. His plan was bold: to concentrate overwhelming force at a single point, shatter the Spartan right wing, and roll up the rest of their line. As the battle began, the Theban left surged forward, its massed ranks crashing into the Spartans like a tidal wave. The Spartans, caught off guard by the depth and ferocity of the assault, began to buckle. Meanwhile, the Theban center and right held back, refusing engagement until the decisive moment. The Oblique order allowed Epaminondas to focus his strength, turning the rigid Spartan formation against itself. The result was a catastrophe for Sparta. Their king, Cleombrotus, fell in the melee. The vaunted Spartiates, men whose training began in boyhood, whose names were whispered in awe, were routed. For the first time in memory, Sparta had been defeated in open battle, its myth of invincibility shattered. The shockwaves of Leuctra reverberated across the Greek world. Thebes, long a pawn in the games of others, now stood as the preeminent power in Greece. But for Epaminondas, victory was not an end, but a beginning. He saw in Thebes' triumph an opportunity to reshape the balance of power, to liberate those who had suffered under Spartan rule. He marched south into the Peloponnese, not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. In the heart of Laconia, he did the unthinkable. He freed the Helots, the enslaved underclass who had toiled for generations to support Sparta's warriors. He founded the city of Megalopolis, a new capital for the Arcadian League, and restored the ancient city of Messene, giving the Messenians back their homeland after centuries of exile. These actions broke the foundations of Spartan power. No longer could Sparta rely on the labor of the Helots or bully its neighbors into submission. The old order was undone, and a new era of freedom and self-determination beckoned. Yet Epaminondas' greatness was not merely martial. He governed with moderation, refusing the trappings of tyranny. When offered kingship and riches, he demurred, content to serve his city and his ideals. He was a man of principle whose vision extended beyond the battlefield to the very fabric of Greek society. But the wheel of fortune turns swiftly, and even the greatest heroes cannot escape fate. In 362 BCE, the embers of war flared once more. Thebes, now at the height of its power, faced a coalition of old rivals, including Sparta and Athens. At Mantinea, the armies met in a final titanic clash. Once again, Epaminondas displayed his tactical brilliance. He employed the Oblique order, massing his cavalry and infantry on the left, striking with precision and audacity. The battle raged, each side suffering grievous losses. At the height of the fighting, Epaminondas himself led a charge, breaking the enemy line. But in the chaos, he was struck down, mortally wounded by a spear. As he lay dying, his companions gathered around him, despairing at the loss of their leader. But Epaminondas, ever serene, asked only if his shield was safe and if the Thebans had won the field. When assured that they had, he bade them farewell, content that his work was done. With his death, the brief Theban hegemony began to wane. Yet the legacy of Epaminondas endured. He had shown that courage and intellect could overturn the mightiest of foes. His innovations and tactics would echo through the centuries, inspiring generals from Philip of Macedon to Alexander the Great. But perhaps his greatest legacy was the idea that freedom, once kindled, could never be extinguished. By liberating the Helots and breaking the chains of tyranny, Epaminondas changed not only the fate of Thebes, but the destiny of Greece itself. His story reminds us that history is shaped not just by swords and shields, but by those who dare to dream of a better world and have the wisdom and courage to make it real. Long after the seat of battle had settled, the name Epaminondas remained a byword for integrity and vision. In a world where ambition often led to excess, he stood apart. A man who wielded power only to serve justice, who sought not conquest, but liberation. His life was a testament to the ideals he cherished, that true greatness lies not in domination, but in the pursuit of freedom and the common good. Thebes, too, would fade from prominence, eclipsed by the rising power of Macedon and the march of history. Yet the lessons of Epaminondas endured. His tactics were studied by future generations, his principles admired even by those who once called him foe. In the end, his revolution was not merely one of arms, but of spirit, a reminder that, in the hands of a visionary, even the most entrenched traditions can be transformed. So, when we think of the giants of antiquity, of Alexander, of Pericles, of Leonidas, let us also remember Epaminondas, the philosopher general of Thebes. For in his life, we see the power of ideas to reshape the world, and the enduring truth that the greatest victories are those won not just on the battlefield, but in the hearts and minds of people. And so, the story of Epaminondas, the revolutionary of Thebes, continues to inspire. His legacy whispers through the ages, a beacon for all who seek to challenge the status quo, to build a world founded on justice, and to lead not by fear, but by example. It is a story of hope, of courage, and of the relentless pursuit of freedom, a story as vital today as it was in the days of ancient Greece.